We Are the World was the global musical anthem of 1985. Everyone knows the song, but do you know the album? Today, we'll look beyond the single at a surprisingly impressive compilation you may still want to add to your collection today. That's next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name's Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a second to click subscribe so you won't miss future reviews and more. With the recent release of the Netflix documentary The Greatest Night in Pop, there's been a surge in nostalgia for the iconic song We Are the World. If you were part of my generation, that recording probably represents a literal who's who of your childhood musical heroes. Chances are you not only know every word, but you can also mimic many of the signature vocal moments, including unique contributions from singers like Bob Dylan, Cyndi Lauper, Bruce Springsteen, Steve Perry, and of course, Michael Jackson. The single, of course, was a massive hit, topping the charts around the world, selling more than 8 million copies in the United States alone. What's often forgotten is that We Are the World was more than just a single and a music video. There was also a full We Are the World charity album put out to coincide with the song's release. Unsurprisingly, it's been out of print for years. I'm fortunate enough to have a copy on CD, and you can probably find a used one if you want to add it to your collection, which is not a bad idea, actually, and that's what I want to talk about today. As compilation albums go, this one's pretty solid and a great time capsule of its era. Taking a look at the track list and artists included here, remember, this is 1985. These are some of the biggest names of the day. Tina Turner, Chicago, Huey Lewis and the News, Steve Perry from Journey, and of course, both Bruce Springsteen and Prince. It's easy to see the appeal. But there's one group on the track list that you may not be familiar with, and that's Northern Lights with the song Tears Are Not Enough. That's actually one of the most interesting inclusions on the album, and I'll tell you more about it later in the video. Now, just like the song, the We Are the World album was also a huge success, rocketing to the top of the US album charts and going on to sell 3 million copies. For perspective, that's as many units as the top album of 2023 sold. It's a very different time now, no doubt, but triple platinum sales is nothing to be dismissive about. So let's take a deeper dive on this album and see what all the fuss was about. Naturally, it opens with the title track, the ubiquitous We Are the World, performed by arguably the greatest supergroup ever assembled under the banner of USA for Africa. Did you know that the USA in that name does not actually stand for United States of America? It wasn't mentioned in the Netflix film, but United Support of Artists for Africa is the actual name of the nonprofit organization behind the song. As you probably know, it was celebrity activist and philanthropist Harry Belafonte who was the American catalyst for the song's creation. He was, of course, inspired by that other Africa charity single, Do They Know It's Christmas? That UK single was recorded by the all-star group Band Aid, organized by Bob Geldof, the only singer to appear on both of those iconic songs. Naturally, We Are the World was the biggest draw for the album, but in an era when movie soundtracks were redefining what a compilation could be, this album was unquestionably impressive. I want to hit some of the highlights with you, starting with the artist that, if you know anything about We Are the World, should have caught your attention immediately. Prince, quite famously, was a no-show to the recording of the song, in spite of repeated requests from the producers, not to mention several calls that night from participant and Prince protege Sheila E. It's really no surprise that that wouldn't be Prince's scene, especially for just a single line in the song, for which Huey Lewis ultimately took over, and quite admirably, I must say. But Prince was always a very charitable artist, so it's not at all shocking that he'd contribute a song to the album. For the Tears in Your Eyes was a new recording from Prince and the Revolution, and one that might have been a hit had it not arrived almost simultaneously with his Purple Rain follow-up album, Around the World in a Day, and its lead single, Raspberry Beret. To this day, the We Are the World album is the only place this version of For the Tears in Your Eyes has been released. A live version was included on the Prince compilation The Hits and the B-Sides, a recording that also has its roots in charity. It was actually a performance recorded for Live Aid later that summer. Another act notably absent from the all-star recording was Chicago and their then lead singer, Peter Cetera. That band was at the height of its success following the massive hit album Chicago 17 in 1984, so their contribution of the song Good for Nothing was good for, well, a lot at that time. As it turns out, that track on the We Are the World album would in fact be Peter Cetera's final recording as the group's frontman. His solo career would explode the following year with chart-topping Karate Kid love song Glory of Love, while his former band could be found a little lower on the charts with hits sung by new lead singer Jason Scheff. But the Chicago song on the We Are the World album will always represent the end of a decades-spanning era for the band. Of course, the track list for the album was not reserved just for no-shows. 6 of the 10 songs contributed came from artists that also appeared on the title song. The Pointer Sisters were members of the chorus and also provided their song Just a Little Closer for the album. Steve Perry was already enjoying success as a solo artist in 1985 when he provided both a memorable solo on We Are the World as well as the album track If Only for the Moment, Girl. Then there's Kenny Rogers, who was of course a pop country crossover star during the mid-80s, not to mention a songwriting collaborator with We Are the World organizer Lionel Richie. Rogers returns a favor to Richie for the song Lady with his recording A Little More Love. Then there's Tina Turner, who was at the height of a massive career resurgence with her blockbuster album Private Dancer. Her contribution to the album, curiously enough, is a cover of a lesser-known single by fellow 80s rockers, The Motels. That band is best known for their hits Only the Lonely and Suddenly Last Summer, but their song Total Control failed to have any chart impact, so you'd be forgiven for assuming it was a Tina Turner original. And then there's the aforementioned Huey Lewis, who lucked into a solo on the All-Star single and also contributed a live version of his band's song Trouble in Paradise, likely a new-to-you song to most listeners since it predates their popular breakthrough by a couple of years. But of course, one of the biggest stars of the music world in 1985 was Bruce Springsteen. The boss was at the top of the We Are the World creative team's wish list, and he's arguably the biggest act not named Michael Jackson to appear on the song. For the album, Springsteen provides a live cover version of the song Trapped by Jimmy Cliff. Of all the artist-contributed tracks on the album, this is the one you're most likely to have heard. Springsteen's Trapped received heavy rotation on rock radio at the time and even managed to hit #1 on Billboard's rock singles chart. The recording would later appear on the bonus disc in the limited edition version of the Essential Bruce Springsteen compilation. If you didn't manage to snag a copy of that, all the more reason for you to track down the We Are the World album. All right, finally, let's talk about one more track on this album, and that's Tears Are Not Enough by Northern Lights. It's a song many of my US viewers may not be familiar with, but my Canadian subscribers probably know it very well. See, Northern Lights was essentially Canada's answer to USA for Africa or Band-Aid. It was an all-star group of Canadian singers performing a song written to benefit famine relief in Africa. Well, mostly singers, just as We Are the World inexplicably included Dan Aykroyd. Tears Are Not Enough has comedian Eugene Levy in the chorus. Otherwise, though, Northern Lights features a fairly impressive lineup, which included Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Rush's Geddy Lee, the Guess Who's Burton Cummings, Loverboy's Mike Reno, Gordon Lightfoot, Anne Murray, and 80s pop rocker Corey Hart. And of course, just like USA for Africa and Band-Aid, Northern Lights boasted a backing chorus of more than 24 celebrity singers. Two of the prime creative forces behind the project were rocker Bryan Adams and super producer and composer David Foster. As you might expect, Tears Are Not Enough topped the charts in Canada. It was also released as a single in America, but it failed to garner much airplay, largely overshadowed by USA for Africa's huge hit. Incidentally, We Are the World was also a #1 hit on the Canadian music charts, but Tears Are Not Enough would ultimately end up on top, ranking as the country's #1 song of 1985. We Are the World was a pop culture flashpoint that, while American-made, still had huge global impact. The Netflix documentary, The Greatest Night in Pop, is well worth watching if you're at all nostalgic for the music of the 80s, regardless of whether or not you even like the song. As for the album, it's truly a musical time capsule. Between the two all-star anthems and the 8 other song contributions, I can't think of a single album that features more artists on one record than this. Truly a once-in-a-lifetime event and an era-defining musical moment. Once again, my name's Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, plus check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.